Larry Morse
has left the conference.
June 9th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Would you please join me in the pledge?
Has joined the conference.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chairman Jacks,
Here.
Commissioner Barlow, Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner Hassett,
Here.
Commissioner Meal, Commissioner Martin. Okay. Commissioner Martin.
Who?
Are you here?
Yes.
Here.
Commissioner Abbott,
Here.
Commissioner Alexander,
Here.
Commissioner Morse,
here.
and Commissioner Gillette. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Automated announcement message, please.
Should anyone wish to speak, please complete a request to speak form, which is also located on the lobby table, next to the sign-in sheet. A request to speak form must be completed for each item you would like to speak on. Please note, there are stairs on the right, left, and center aisles, and we ask that you use caution when using the stairs. There is also a ramp located to the audience's left. If anyone has written comments, exhibits, petitions, photos, or letters they intend to present at today's meeting, have 17 copies and give them to a staff member at the back of the auditorium. Staff member, please hold up your hand for the audience. If you do not have 17 copies, you may use the overhead camera to present your documents. Please place your documents on the podium and line it up with the arrows indicated. If you want your documentation to go on record, you must hand them to the clerk after your presentation with the agenda item number clearly marked on the documentation. Members of the public cannot speak to staff members that are seated at the tables with microphones during the meeting. If you have questions, please see the staff member located in the back of the auditorium. All speakers will be limited to 2 minutes to make their presentation statements. Everyone, please turn off all cell phones or place them on vibrate during the meeting. If you must take a call, please leave the meeting area and go outside to have your conversation. We also ask the audience to refrain from talking with one another during the presentations and discussions. Today, the Planning and Zoning Commission will hear public testimony and then forward a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Everyone attending the meeting is asked to remember that the administrative building and campus are tobacco-free areas, which means no smoking is allowed from curb to curb. No food or drinks are allowed in the auditorium except for bottled water. If there are any items remaining on the agenda, the Commission will break for lunch for 1 hour per the Chairman's discretion.
The items with a recommendation made by the Commission will be heard by the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, July 6, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. in this same location, with the exception of any continued items. And that moves us on to item number 1.
Item number 1 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel Number 402-64088 from an RE10A Residential Recreation 10-acre minimum lot size zone to an RE1A Residential Recreation 1-acre minimum lot size zone to bring the property into compliance in the Littlefield vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Open up a public hearing. Is the applicant present today on this item? Don't believe the applicant is available. Do we have anyone wishing to speak on item number 1? Okay, close the public hearing. Do commissioners have any questions or comments at this time on item 1? Hearing none, the chairman will call for a motion.
I'll move to approve item number 1 according to staff recommendation.
Got a motion by Commissioner Alexander. Looking for a second?
Second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Meal. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 2A.
Item number 2A is an evaluation of a request for an amendment to the Mojave County General Plan from a GC, General Commercial Land Use Designation, and to an SDA, Suburban Development Area Land Use Designation, and an amendment to the Virgin River Communities Area Plan from a COM, Commercial Land Use Designation, to an LDR, Low Density Residential Land Use Designation, for a rezone for Assessors Parcel Number 402-15084 in the scenic vicinity. Staff recommends approval.
Opening up a public hearing. Is the applicant with us today? Do we have anyone wishing to speak on item 2A? Okay, close the public hearing. Does any commissioner have questions or comments at this time on item 2A? Hearing none, calling for a motion on item 2A.
Make a motion to approve 2A.
Commissioner Hassett has a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
And a second by Commissioner Alexander. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to item 2B.
Item number 2B is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel Number 402-15084 from an RE10A Residential Recreation 10-acre minimum lot size zone to an RE4A Residential Recreation 4-acre minimum lot size zone to allow for a minor land division in the scenic vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Okay, opening up public hearing. Is the applicant present? No. Do we have anyone wishing to speak on item 2B? Okay, closing the public hearing. Does any commissioner have questions or comments on item 2B? No. Looking for a motion on item 2B.
I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
Have a motion by Commissioner Abbott. Looking for a second? Second by Commissioner Meal. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? Item carries. Moving on to item 3.
Item number 3 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel Number 402-13099 from an RE10A Residential Recreation 10-acre minimum lot size zone to an RE2A Residential Recreation 2-acre minimum lot size zone to bring the property into compliance in the scenic vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Opening a public hearing. Is the applicant present? Do we have anyone wishing to speak on item 3? Okay, hearing none, closing the public hearing. Does any commissioner have questions or comments at this time? item 3? Okay. Hearing none, calling for a motion on item 3.
Motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Commissioner Martin has a motion, looking for a second.
Second motion.
Commissioner Abbott has a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 4A.
Item number 4A is an evaluation of a request for an amendment to the Mojave County General Plan from an NC Neighborhood Commercial and LR Low Density Residential Land Use Designation to a GC General Commercial and LR Low Density Residential Land Use Designation, and an amendment to the Virgin River Communities Area Plan from an NC Neighborhood Commercial and LDR Low Density Residential Land Use Designation to a COM Commercial and LDR Low Density Residential Land Use Designation for Assessors Parcel Number 402-77015B in the scenic vicinity. Staff has received 2 letters of opposition, 1 letter of concern, and 1 letter of support for this item. Staff recommends approval.
Opening up the public hearing, is the applicant present? Yes. Do you wish to speak on it?
Good morning, Honorable Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Kathy Tackett Hicks, and I'm acting as the owner's agent. I was brought in late to this project right here, so the applicant was unable to be here today. But I did want to address a few of the items on the opposition letters. So in this area, if you can show a map of this, the road that was built out there, some of the comments where the road needed to be expanded and other things on Scenic Boulevard. That was actually built through an improvement district by the county. It is maintained by the county, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention. It's not something that the developer initiated. In addition, just to the direct south of this, there's currently under construction a smaller RV park by the same developer. It's not open yet, but this one would be, run in conjunction with that one to the south. There are no other commercial areas, I don't think, directly adjacent or real close to this. There is a need in this area for RV parks. In fact, just this last weekend, I was up in Zion, and they're all over the place and nowhere to go, all the way up through that 15 corridor. If you have any questions, I know one of the developer teams is here as well. I just wanted to address some of that opposition because I was able to look at some of that. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I know one of the other gentlemen is here, Tom, as well, about particulars.
Any questions at this time?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks. We do have Mr. Tom Beeler who would like to make a presentation.
Good morning. My name is Tom Beller. Do you need my address?
Yes.
2135 Comanche Drive, Kingman, Arizona.
Thank you.
Commissioners, good morning. As a resident of Mojave County, I just want to let you briefly know that I've spent some time up in the scenic area, Beaver Dam area, on the properties that the developer is looking to continue to develop. But what impresses me is the level of commitment to follow the landscape out there. And secondly, with this addition to the RV park, I think there's going to be upwards of 20 people employed between Beaver Dam and Scenic. So with the increased sales tax, I think that it's a good venture for the community to see this development go through. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Beeler?
I have a question for Tom. Is the applicant a local resident in the area, developer?
Right, he resides in Beaver Dam,
Thank you.
at the Beaver Dam, historic Beaver Dam Lodge Resort.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else wishing to speak on item 4A? We did have one letter asking the question, is there any type of restrictions on the age of the RVs that would be in an RV park such as that?
Chairman Jacks, Commissioners, there's nothing in our zoning ordinance that would limit that. So that wouldn't be something that staff would normally restrict.
Okay, thank you. Close the public hearing. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments at this point on item 4A? Hearing now, Chair will call for a motion on item 4A.
I'll make a motion to approve 4A according to the staff recommendation.
A motion by Commissioner Alexander,
Second.
looking for a second by Commissioner Hassett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Moves us on to item 4B.
Item number 4B is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of a portion of Assessors Parcel number 402-77015B from an AR-10A agricultural residential 10-acre minimum lot size zone to an AR agricultural residential zone and a C2H highway commercial zone to allow for a minor land division with residential uses and a future recreational vehicle park in the scenic vicinity. As with the previous item, we've received 2 letters of opposition, 1 letter of concern, and 1 letter of support for this item. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Thank you. Open a public hearing. Is the applicant present? Any comments, Kathy?
Not unless you have a question.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak on item 4B? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I just wanted to clarify on the rezoning portion. If you saw that 5 parcel plat that was up there before, so that 1 acre piece fronting the southern road is for a future substation for the utility company. And that bottom piece in the one of the pictures on the GIS, you saw a major flood coming through. That's kind of the delineator, but area to the south will be the RV portion fronting that south, and then to the top is the residential uses. And then there's a 1 acre piece in the corner, which will also be agricultural residential, which matches the existing homes across that corner. So I just wanted to clarify what that parcel plat is and where the different zones go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Closing the public hearing. Does any commissioner have questions or comments on item 4B? Hearing none, Chair is looking for a motion on item 4B.
I'll make a motion to approve 4B per staff recommendation.
A motion by Commissioner Abbott, looking for second.
Second.
A second by Commissioner Alexander. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moves us on to item number 5.
Item number 5 is an evaluation of a request for a special use permit for Assessors Parcel number 402-38021 to allow for a residential vehicle park in an AR agricultural residential zone in the Littlefield vicinity. Staff has received 2 letters of opposition for this item. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Okay, thank you. Opening up a public hearing. Is the applicant present? coming to the podium.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. Thank you for your indulgence for a few moments. Just I'd like to address a couple of things on the letters of...
Sir, would you state your name and address?
My name is Crescent Hardy, and I am the applicant of this parcel and owner. I'd like to address a couple of the items on the the letters of opposition. The discussion is that the road is not wide enough to come through the area. We paved this access to this road when I owned the property in its entirety prior to selling it to one of the property owners, a piece of it. And we had paved that piece of property in its entirety. As far as the maintenance, we had upheld that maintenance through the process of us having a gravel pit and a concrete company in that area. And then until we moved it out of there, and then we didn't take care of the road any longer. But neither one of the residents there have maintained it either. But the road is a 24-foot paved section going down into this property. It's 30-foot wide going through the one of the properties in the paved section. And it comes off a 22-foot Highway 91. So according to access, I think there's adequate access to get to the property. And like I said, with the traffic, for its traffic flow, we had concrete trucks and gravel trucks coming in and out of there on a regular basis, probably anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes at a time, and never had any problem at that time with the complaints, other than maybe a little bit of somebody speeding once in a while. But those are some of the comments I'd just like to address. I'm sure if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer, and I'll wait for the other comments.
All right, thank you much. Opening up the public hearing, do have a Mr. Jensen that would wish to speak on this item. Mr. Jensen?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this issue. My name is Alex Jensen. My address is 1495 West, 1025 South in Layton, Utah. I'm here today representing my brother and his wife, Courtney and Jolene Jensen, who are neighbors immediately to the subject property. When my brother became aware of the scale and scope of this proposal, he reached out to me. I'm not an attorney, but for the last 30 years, I've served as the city manager for the city of Layton, Utah, northern Utah, a city of approximately 80,000 people. That's one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Utah historically. And so he reached out to me for advice and suggestions about the appropriateness of this proposal. I, because of my past experience, would do the same thing your staff would do, and that's that I immediately went to the documents that govern development and planning and zoning in the county of Mojave, and reviewed your county general plan, reviewed your zoning ordinance, reviewed the requirements and the prerequisites associated with this SUP request, reviewed the information that needed to be submitted at a minimum in order to even have the consideration for the special flexibility that the SUP provides. I also took the opportunity to visit with one of your good staff members, Mr. Gunderson, about this issue. Frankly, was concerned about seeing, after I reviewed all those documents, seeing the recommendation from staff for approval. But again, I understand, being a staff member for all these years, how that happens from time to time. We found serious issues, we believe, not only planning issues, which can be subjective, right? Everybody has an opinion of what's good planning and bad planning. But the thing I want to focus on just very briefly, and I know time is limited, are just four main things. And the one is extremely significant. In the county's own documents, adopted policies and procedures, a copy of that has been submitted to you, and I'm reading from it here. It's specific. May I continue, Mr. Chairman?
We can give you 3 more minutes.
Thank you. It's very generous. In the county's own document, it says this Mojave County Special Use Permit Procedure. It specifically says in paragraph 2, prior to acceptance of an SUP request, the applicant shall, not might, ought to, would be nice, shall comply with and submit the following. There are 7 subparagraphs to that document. Item F says the property involved in the SUP request shall have direct access to a publicly dedicated right-of-way or to a 60-foot easement if under the ownership or control of the applicant. There's 3 possibilities. This application doesn't meet any of those. In fact, on the applicant's own submittal, which you have a copy of in the packet, you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, their engineer, who's a professional engineer, has identified that the only proposed access to this property is a 20-foot access easement, and that is accurate. The road is a private road. It's in very poor condition since it was built in the early 2000s. It has not been maintained, and the trucks that Mr. Hardy talked about have not ran up and down that road for about 16 years because the plant closed shortly after the construction of the road. The only legal access into that property is a 20-foot ingress and egress easement. There are portions of the pavement that is wider than the 20 feet, but the legal access is only 20 feet. The presumption that a commercial RV park of up to a potential of 170 units could be adequately serviced, either for just consumer use or for public safety access over a 20-foot access easement on a road that hasn't maintained literally for the last 20 years is remarkable to me in dealing with these issues on a regular basis. This access is such an important thing. We believe that on its face, the request should have never been approved, but we understand how that process works. The introduction of large RVs and fifth wheels on this road will blow that road up in short order. The subgrade is bad. The road is more than reached its lifetime. The other thing we'd like to briefly mention is the idea that this is the introduction of a very large-scale commercial use in what is a remote, secluded area. This is not like the other parks that have been talked about in Scenic, where it's adjacent to development and neighborhoods and services. This sits about 0.8 of a mile off Highway 91. Again, it is a private road with limited access, a fairly steep grade going in and out. And we're proposing to drop this in the middle of an area where there are 2 residential, single-family residential homes, and my brother's cow-calf ranching operation that he's spent a lot of time and money to develop over the last 16 years, and some random buildings that were left from the remnant of the plant that Mr. Hardy talked about. It is completely the wrong place to drop this kind of a use. There are needs certainly in that area. I grew up in that area for this, but this is not the place. Because it fails to meet, both from a planning perspective and certainly according to the county's own prerequisite requirements, we would respectfully request that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of denial to the County Board of Supervisors. We appreciate your time and thank you for the service that you render. I know it's very important.
Thank you. I'll see if there's any questions by any of the commissioners at this point for the applicant. No? Okay. Yes.
For the applicant, no, but I do have a question for staff.
Okay. Questions for, yes,
No.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have no
Please
questions for the
proceed.
applicant, but to the staff. Could you please address the 20-foot easement compared to the 60-foot easement that is said is required?
Chairman Jacks, Commissioner Alexander. So our special use permit application does have that listed in there. Typically, from a planning perspective, in regards to access to properties, that is something that we let Public Works address. They typically are the ones that address road widths and if a road or access is adequate to one of those sites. And we allow for special use permits in pretty much all of our zoning districts, including residential, which oftentimes wouldn't be feasible to have a 60-foot right-of-way to those residential properties. So in talking to our planning manager, this isn't something that we have enforced in the past. But I'll let Ms. Ballard, she might have more information on that.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, all of the RV park proposals, once they either receive a rezone or the special use permit required to allow them to go forward, have an additional step that they have to comply with, and that's 37G of the zoning ordinance. That's an administrative process, so this commission typically does not see that. Part of that process, Public Works is one of our review partners. Typically, they will require, if they expect the average daily traffic count to be over 500 trips per day, and a trip isn't just in and out, it's the trip in is one trip, trip out is a second trip. So in a way, you double count there. They'll require a traffic impact analysis, and I certainly suspect that they will do so in this case. Implementation of that traffic impact analysis could result in changes if the traffic impact analysis comes out with the finding that the access is not adequate or not sufficient for the usage. They will come out with suggestions for both on-site and off-site improvements that must be done in order to facilitate the development they're proposing.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
May I make a quick comment? Thank you very much. I guess, again, just based on my experience, and I'm no smarter than anybody else, but I have 30 years of experience that's I've learned the hard way. Counties, cities, municipalities, government entities have great latitude in establishing their policies and procedures in ordinance form or policy form or application form. But cities and counties are at significant risk. You could talk to your council about this when you act contrary to that which has been adopted. And that's the concern that one of the concerns that we have here is there's been a prerequisite document that says this must happen before all of the things that Ms. Ballard has talked about. You have to meet these minimum requirements. That's our issue, is that minimum requirement was not met. If you can't get through the gate, can't get a ticket into the game, you're not in the game. So we would encourage you to think about that and look at that carefully. That is not a threat at all. Just from experience is that the county's document is very clear. It does not meet the minimum requests that have been established by the leadership of this county for even a consideration of a permit, let alone the approval of a permit. We would, again, just ask for council to, weigh in on that and for you to think through that carefully. But again, we appreciate your service, and we've overspent our time. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Can I ask, I have a question for that gentleman.
I'm sorry. We have a question by Commissioner Hassett.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding both the statements by staff and you correctly. So in the letter of opposition from your family, you circled F, right? That's the main concern, is that the minimum requirement that wasn't met is a 60-foot easement, correct?
Or access to a publicly dedicated right-of-way that's going to be maintained and serviced in perpetuity.
And the staff's response to the commissioner's question was that one of the people that work with you, your planning partner, is Public Works, so they would evaluate the traffic count, correct? And essentially they would be reviewing F to see if that is something that's necessary to enforce?
That is correct. And they have a policy where if they estimate that 500 or more trips, or even close to 500 trips per day will be generated by the development, they typically ask for a traffic impact analysis. Now, if this commission wants to be sure that a traffic impact analysis is done for this particular project, that is something you have the authority to add to the conditions that staff recommends.
If I may, just clarify one of the statements being made is staff does typically address the 60-foot or the necessary access to these developments. It's through that TIA that those issues are addressed. So it's not that we don't enforce or that we don't address those. That is our mechanism to address those, is through that traffic impact analysis. We do have a representative from Public Works here, and he may be able to shed a little additional light on this as well. But just like Ms. Ballard mentioned, is one condition that could be added at this time would be to require that traffic impact analysis. I would also make you aware that another condition could be that those requirements of F be met prior to final approval of any RV park. So just further enforcing what the ordinance already requires.
So, but on F that this gentleman is concerned about, this would be in reference to your TIA reporting the larger number, correct? The 500 or some odd vehicles you were referring to?
And I would defer to Public Works on what exactly would trigger their requirement for a TIA. If it is a concern of this commission, the commission could add that as a condition regardless of what Public Works' typical trigger would be for a TIA. But if I may, I'd ask Public Works to come up and weigh in as well.
Good morning, Commission. My name is Greg Vandiver. I work for Mojave County Public Works Department. I am a engineering technician specialist. In our comment memo that we sent over to the Development Services Department, we did ask for a TIA to be prepared in accordance with the Mojave County Traffic Impact Analysis Standards, and we asked for public access from a known county road to be demonstrated for this project. So we did ask for those two things to be done. If the engineer of record for this project can demonstrate that the trip analysis does not come to that level, we would probably still ask for some kind of traffic impact analysis statement in writing to be sealed by that engineer of record. If the trips are somewhat below that, demonstrating that this project will not have adverse impacts on the surrounding areas, and that the roads getting to the site are adequate for, you know, the surrounding area. So we did ask for these two things to be done, that public access from a known county road is demonstrated and adequate, and that we do get some kind of traffic analysis for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. So, oh, sorry.
Please.
I appreciate that clarification, but I also understand what this gentleman is saying. So if that's done, obviously we as a commission can request that at minimum that is required in order to approve the applicants or the application. But I guess my point to this is nowhere do I see it saying minimum. I do see the shall terminology in this. But at what point can you adjust this down, or should you change the application or the restrictions in there so it is adjusted down so a situation like this doesn't happen again? I mean, that might be more than what this commission's jurisdiction is, but I do understand what this gentleman's saying. So has the TIA and all that been demonstrated? Are we working towards that?
Members of the commission, Mr. Haslett, the TIA is required at the same time as the RV plan that's required under Section 37G of the planning or the Mojave County zoning ordinance.
Okay, so at this time it would be I mean, the only thing we can do is it's made contingent upon those requirements then?
Correct.
Correct, okay. Thank you very much, sir. I just wanted to make sure that that was your point that you were addressing.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you again, Chairman Jacks. I think that the challenge here is, I think, with all due respect to staff, and I am one, so I'm very sensitive to this, is they're not answering the question directly that you're asking. The leaders of this county, by ordinance, the zoning ordinance, and other documents associated with that or enabled by that, have enacted a gate, if you will, that says if you want access to the flexibility and the variety of being allowed to put a commercial use, in this case an RV park, in a zone that typically does not accommodate those as a permitted use, there has to be, before we have any of these discussions, which are relevant but secondary, there has to be some minimum requirements met. One of those conditions is it must have access to a public right-of-way, or it must have a 60-foot access completely controlled and owned by the applicant. That's the ticket, if you can pass that, that gets you into the review of all of the things that the staff appropriately is talking about. And so our point is they're two completely different things. To me, it's, again, respectfully, it's inconceivable that an ordinance, a law, a county law passed by, that was informed by the Planning Commission and especially by the Board of Supervisors, that's so clear in its meaning could be interpreted by the Public Works Department of the county. When it says shall meet this requirement, that means shall. It doesn't mean if the Public Works Department agrees with it. And I have great respect for the Public Works Department and this gentleman, okay? They're amazing. But that's the dilemma here. And I think that, you know, the challenge, that language was written for a purpose, I think, to make sure that when you're looking at a proposed use on a subject property, that some of the things that can create a lot of problems down the road are actually dealt with. And then we get into the site plan issues and all the things that are required by the RV park. That's the difference.
I think we 100% understand what you're saying. Whose road is it? This gentleman said he paved it, so.
It's a private road. He didn't pave it by himself. Mr. Hardy at the time, and we've known Mr. Hardy, you know, we grew up with him all out of Mesquite, and have no issues there. But he was part of a company that had some other partners who owned that plant together, and that road was built to access the plant that he talked about. My brother moved there, and his wife moved there in 2005. Shortly thereafter, the plant closed. And so since 2005, 6, that road has been utilized by 2 residences and my brother's ranching operation and others who have had access to it for recreation and other things. Mr. Hardy, I believe, took actual ownership of it here 4 or 5, 6 years ago. He could probably clarify that as part of the breakup of that earlier corporation. It dissolved and everybody kind of parted and went their own way, and I believe Mr. Hardy ended up with it. So the road has not been used continuously.
So it's a private road?
It's a private road. It has a recorded easement, a legal easement across it that was established initially. There's no mechanism in place for ongoing maintenance, to require maintenance, or to provide for maintenance. And we have pictures, but we didn't meet the requirements, so I won't try to show those. But the road is not in good condition. Okay. You know.
So my question is for staff. Staff, did the applicant, prior to acceptance of the SUP, meet requirement F?
The applicant, members of the commission, Mr. Haslett, the applicant has access, or they've shown where access could be available, not is available, but could be available to Highway 91.
So the applicant has or to a 60-foot easement if under the ownership or control of the applicant. There's 2 options there, public road or has access to the easement, right?
Right.
That is not, I apologize, but that is not true. The Hidden Valley Road is a private road, and from Highway 9, which is a county-owned road.
Relevant if it's a private road, if the applicant has the ability to put in a 60-foot easement, it says or.
No, right, but he does not have, because on either side of the ownership from Highway 91 to the subject property is privately owned outside of that 20-foot easement. It's privately owned, including as it traverses through my brother's property. And there is no feasible, logical way that road is going to be expanded given the existing property ownership that exists there. And it's 8/10 of a mile away from a publicly dedicated right-of-way. The answer, I can answer the question respectfully.
And I do respect your answer, however, staff needs to answer that.
Yeah, if the road is private, then the applicant has 2 options. One is to obtain an easement from the owner of the roadway, probably improve the roadway, and use that to Highway 91. The second is to work with the property owner to dedicate that same roadway to the public, so there's no question in the future.
Right, yeah, absolutely. No, I understand that.
Do we have documentation that he's done either at this point in time? No, we do not.
I have a question for staff. If we could just back it up and clarify if the current legal access is by an easement or paved road currently.
Ms. Martin, you're asking two different questions. The first question is, does the applicant, or will the applicant's development, if no other action is taken, have?
No, currently.
Yeah, but if no other action is, will they have legal access as, do they currently have legal access? The department does not know. We do not have any documentation that shows whether or not they do. And
Okay, I think that answers my question.
yeah, now whether or not there is a roadway there physically that you can walk down, yes, there is.
I have a comment. If I haven't missed out on a lot of things, we've heard far too many questions and comments about this situation. And in my opinion, should never be before us, the commissioners, to rule on one way or another. Talk about a traffic impact analysis. It would seem like, from what I have heard, if I've heard it wrong, correct me, it is felt that's an important issue. It's not been done. That's just one of a number of things that hasn't been done. We don't have this, we don't have that. And if I was sitting in either one of your positions, I would have trouble with what the other one is saying here about going forth with this on approving it or rejecting it. I think we need a lot more information before we're asked to rule on this.
I agree with him, because I see both your sides. I'm for one for developing the area and making it better and putting in an RV park, but if the requirement of F has not been met, one of those two options have not been met, then I don't think that we have a position to speak on it yet.
Chairman Jacks, if I may, and I appreciate the comments that have been shared, and definitely there's some more work that we can do on this. If I may back up just a little bit as far as process and how these things come before you. As has been mentioned, there's a two-step to this, and generally it's similar to a rezone or those other other types of functions that we'll bring to you. The developer will first come in for a rezone, or in this case a special use permit, to see the feasibility of an item, to see is there a flavor for this in the county, and once that has been approved, then they take the next step of doing the development, the engineering, the traffic impact analysis, those types of things that are on the other side. That doesn't, the SUP in a sense does not waive those requirements. It gives that first step towards those requirements. So as has been mentioned, the special use permit would allow for the use on this property. Once that use has been approved, the next step would be the RV park review process, which would include the traffic impact analysis, the on-site improvements, and those types of things. I definitely understand the Commission's concerns on the access, and that's something, if I may make a suggestion, of possibly continuing the item and giving the developer an opportunity to provide better documentation of that access and better planning for providing that access.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. How would you like me to word that?
Mr. Chairman, I also have another question, or I need some clarification. This project looks pretty big, well over 100 spaces.
170.
And I question why a special use permit rather than a rezone of this property. I don't know if the applicant can answer that, or staff can answer that.
Chairman Jacks, Commissioner Alexander, our zoning ordinance allows for recreational vehicle parks with a special use permit in the agricultural residential zone. So when Mr. Hardy came and said, this is what I want to do, when we met with him, the easiest path to that was through the special use permit process.
Well, I can understand it being the easiest path, but what about, I don't know, what's the zoning, the RV? I mean, a special use permit, doesn't it have to be looked at periodically and reissued? And for such a large development such as this, wouldn't the applicant prefer to actually have it rezoned so that he doesn't have to continue to come back and get that special use permit?
Commissioner Alexander, we do have some special use permits that we require at the applicant to come back and renew it. One like kennels is one that comes to mind. An RV park is not one of those, so we don't put a time limit on that condition of approval. Instead, we put timeframes on it where they would, if the use was discontinued, if they stopped using it as an RV park, then that special use permit would lapse and they would no longer be able to continue using it and would need to come back.
Thank you for that. Maybe the applicant would like to address the issue?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Crescent Hardy. That was exactly the reason we come forth with the special use permit. We still want to continue to do agriculture and cattle operation adjacent to it. We have other plans in the larger piece of the property. It's only taken about, I think, 15, 20 acres of the whole 125 acres for the RV use. But that was why we went to the special use permit, is because we could get an answer before we start spending tens of thousands of dollars on engineering and design and moving to see what the staff or the board's recommendations were moving forward. We understand, but the engineer's already been engaged to do a traffic study and all the other issues that have been recommended at the time we see if we're going to get approval or not, or the flavor of the situation.
Mr. Chairman, staff, correct me if I'm wrong. I understand what you're saying. The problem is that in order to get the permit approved, you have failed to meet one of the requirements. So the issue would be what was stated earlier by staff, is to continue this to give you the opportunity to either prove access to a public road or prove that you can get a 60-foot easement. I mean, that's really all we need to do. Because at this time, you're asking for an SUP. At this time, you cannot prove item F, correct?
Not to be argumentative, but I guess where's the access to a larger project, a number of projects that don't have 60-foot easements to them currently right now that are going forward? They're in place at the current time, you know, other RV parks in this valley. So,
I would use that as an example when you do, but I mean, at this point, I think, please, anyone stop me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of what's hinging this deal.
I understand, and willing to move forward and see what we can do.
Staff, would that be accurate that all he would need to do is prove one of those two things in order to get the approval of this? Yeah, one of two.
Yeah, what he needs to show, one of the things that staff is following up on is whether or not that 60-foot requirement has a basis in ordinance.
Okay.
We do not believe it does. So in absence of that, then our fallback is that traffic impact analysis statement, where an engineer who's qualified to look at the situation, look how many trips per day are required, how many, what kind of traffic are those trips? And that's important here, because they're not going to be, for the most part, those trips are not going to be in your average passenger car. And that engineer would then make recommendations that would ultimately be forwarded to the Public Works Director.
Right. However, the issue is that in order to get this approved, unless I'm reading this wrong, he has to show that he has access to a publicly dedicated right-of-way or a 60-foot easement if under the ownership or control of the applicant. Right, which is why staff suggested, and I agreed on a continuance. I just don't know how to word that.
Chairman, may I suggest the motion that says, we'll continue this item to commission the line meeting.
Amen.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to continue this item to the July meeting.
Second?
I have a question before I second. Is that long enough? There's a lot of issues here.
And I'm going to throw out another one.
We could accommodate the July meeting, yes.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Mill, do you have a question?
I have a question. You had mentioned about going, if I understood it right, part of the access to your property is through by land, that you were going to lease it. Can you buy it? Long-term lease is breakable. And that's going to kill your project.
It would not.
Across the land.
Mr. Meal, I don't think we'd try to acquire property from him, which we already have an easement through, which I believe is adequate for that RV park. I guess that traffic study will tell us that. We have legal access. We actually had the ownership of that property prior to, and we sold it to an employee that is now objecting to this, ex-employee that was objecting to this RV park at this time. So, but we believe we have legal access. We believe we can prove it. We'll do the traffic study and everything you ask and go from there is all we can do at this time.
Sir, I would also reference the other RV parks that you spoke of. Know that I am for development. I am for improving our county, but doing it the right way. So I would reference those other parks that you spoke of earlier, and I would also point out the fact that the road's been there, or you've paved it, or however you want to do it, but if you can adequately do it by the July meeting, I think that's what we need to accomplish today.
That will be the challenge, but we'll do it our best effort. And just for record, I used to be the Director of Public Works for the City of Mesquite, so I understand where the staff's at, and I also used to be a city councilman, so I understand where you folks are at. So
perfect.
No objections to any of your own motion there.
Thanks for everybody's input. We have a motion by Commissioner Hassett, and we have a second by Commissioner Abbott. All those in favor, say aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Wait one moment.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Commissioner Martin, didn't mean to.
I have a little discrepancy with the motion. I'd like to bring up another comment.
Okay.
If we could deny this until the applicant can show proper legal access, either by an easement, because I don't want to come back next month and go through this whole thing all over again.
Would it be safe to say that we can just, if he's not ready by July, it can move to August?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, if the motion is to deny and the motion prevails, you do not get a second bite at that apple. It moves right on to the Board of Supervisors for their final decision. If the project is denied after that, then the applicant must wait one full year before he reapplies.
So can I amend my motion then?
To bring it to August?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Haslett, yes, you can amend your motion whatever direction you want to go.
May I amend my motion to continue the application to the July or August meeting upon notification from the applicant?
Clarification, Mr. Haslett?
Clarification would be that prior to the deadline to get on the July meeting, the applicant would need to reach out to the staff to inform them whether he is on or off for July. But his deadline would be August to be brought before the commission.
If I may, if the applicant has no objection, I would suggest just setting it for the August meeting. I believe there is some issue with not having a date certain on the continuance. By setting the continuance to a date certain, that helps in meeting certain notification guidelines. By leaving it up, it could cause some problems.
Does that work for you, Mr. Applicant? Yes. Sir? Okay, so I'm amending my motion to continue the application to the August meeting for further information by the applicant.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
May I ask a clarification question? For our purposes, does that include, getting on the agenda includes addressing, having an answer to the question about the public right-of-way or the 60-foot easement? I just want to make sure on our end that that's part of the condition of being on the August meeting. That will involve discussions between us.
Forward that question to the staff.
Chairman Jacks, the continuance, the way it was worded, the item is continued to the August meeting. It will be brought back before the commission at that time to share whatever information that we have gained between now and that meeting.
And it would be in the applicant's best interest to prove that he can meet the F requirement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that would include access to the property.
Which is, yeah, that's F.
That moves us on to item 6A.
Item number 6A is an evaluation of a request for an amendment to the Mojave County General Plan from an RDA, Rural Development Area, land use designation, to a GC, General Commercial, land use designation for Assessors Parcel number 339220003 in the Mineral Park vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Is the applicant present? Kathy, you have any comments?
Good morning, Honorable Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Kathy Tackett-Hicks. I'm acting as the owner's agent. I just want to bring some information about this because we've brought, and of course I'm asking for your support, but the item itself, why I'm coming forward with so many truck stops and commercial ventures, it's all driven by the I-11 corridor expansions. This particular site is awesome. It's located about a mile south of the Mineral Park location, that intersection right there. This property also already has an existing ADOT permitted access, and there is a road crossing this up to the old Mineral Park that I think qualifies under the RS 2477. Scribbling at my notes, the other item I wanted to bring to your attention, that new 230 kV line that comes up through Golden Valley, up through Mineral Park, it actually is on this property right across from the highway. So they're working with those agents for that group, and that will be able to supply the extra power that they need for this. I do believe that the truck stops and adding services to the general traveling public is in need along this route. I'm also working on some on I-40 in Yavapai County as well. But there are several of these going. This is a nice location because it already has ADOT permitted access. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, and I would ask for your support and approval of this item.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Open the public hearing. Do we have anybody else wishing to speak on item 6A? Close the public hearing. Does any commissioner have questions or comments at this time on 6A? No. Chair is calling for a motion on 6A.
Motion to approve per staff recommendations.
Commissioner Morton has a motion. Looking for a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hassett. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moves us on to item 6B.
Item number 6B is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel number 339220003 from an AR-10A agricultural residential with a 10-acre minimum lot size zone to a C2H highway commercial zone to allow for a truck stop, restaurant, commercial store, and associated uses in the Mineral Park vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
The applicant present. Any comments? Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else wishing to speak on item 6B? No. Close the public hearing. Does any commission have any question or comments at this time for 6B? Okay. Calling for a motion on 6B.
A motion to approve item 6B according to staff recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Alexander, looking for a second. Second by Commissioner Meal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Item number 7 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel number 306-09029 from an AR2A agricultural residential 2-acre minimum lot size zone to an AR agricultural residential zone to allow for a minor land division in the Golden Valley vicinity. Staff has received one letter of opposition related to this item. Staff does recommend approval with standard conditions.
Is the applicant present? Any comments?
Are we on? The residential one. Yeah. I'm sorry. Kathy Tackett Hicks, owner's agent. I was not aware we had a letter of opposition. I did receive one phone call on this. If you look at the map, the woman was to the northeast of this. She just wanted to make sure that there was not a commercial use, which I assured her it wasn't. I'm only concerned because I haven't read that letter of opposition. This absolutely fits in with the surrounding properties to the west, the south, and the east are all AR. Everything in this area is AR2 or AR. So the request, I think, is logical and complementary to the use, and I am hoping that you'll be able to support it and approve this. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions at this time? Okay, thanks.
Thank
Kathy.
you.
Do we have anyone wishing to speak on item 7? Okay, hearing none, do commissioners have any questions or comments at this time on item 7? Chair will call a motion for item 7.
I'll make a motion to approve item 7 according to staff recommendation.
Second.
Commissioner Alexander has a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Martin. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 8.
Item number 8 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel number 306-09039C from an AR2A agricultural residential 2-acre minimum lot size zone to an AR agricultural residential zone to allow for a minor land division in the Golden Valley vicinity. Staff has received one letter of concern regarding signage in the area, but that has been forwarded to Public Works to be addressed. Otherwise, staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Is the applicant present? Any comments on this one? No. Do we have anyone else wishing to speak on item 8? Closing the public hearing. Do commissioners have any questions or comments at this time? Item 8. No. Calling for a motion for item 8.
Make a motion to approve item 8.
Motion by Commissioner Hassett. Looking for a second?
Second motion.
Second by Commissioner Abbott. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9.
Item number 9 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel number 306-46011R from an AR10A agricultural residential 10-acre minimum lot size zone to an AR agricultural residential zone to bring the property into compliance and allow for a minor land division in the Golden Valley vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Is the applicant present? Yes. Do you wish to speak on the item? No. Okay. Applicant is available for questions. Do we have anyone else wishing to speak on item 9? Okay, close the public hearing. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on item 9? No. Chair is calling for a motion for item 9.
I motion to approve item 9 according to staff recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Alexander, looking for a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hassett. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 10.
Item number 10 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel number 306-13159 from an AR2A agricultural residential 2-acre minimum lot size zone to an AR agricultural residential zone to allow for a minor land division in the Golden Valley vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Is the applicant present? Do you wish to speak on the item? Okay, applicant is available for questions. Do we have anyone else wishing to speak on item 10? Hearing none, close to the public hearing. Does any of our commissioners have a comment on item 10? Okay, chair is calling for a motion on item 10. Motion for item 10.
I'll make the motion to approve item 10 according to the staff recommendation.
Second motion.
Motion by Commissioner Alexander, second by Commissioner Abbott. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 11A.
Item number 11A is an evaluation of a request for an amendment to the Mojave County General Plan from an SDA Suburban Development Area Land Use Designation to an LI Light Industrial Land Use Designation for Assessors Parcel number 21519-006 in the Griffith vicinity. Staff has received 3 letters of support, and staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Is the applicant present? Do you wish to speak on the item? If you would state your name and address, thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, many members. My name is Donald Lennox. My address is 2403 Jasmine Drive in Bullhead City, Arizona. And I just wanted to state that this property is currently and has been for just over 15 years a running and operating farm. Okay, we have about 36 acres of almonds at this current time, and we plan to remain a farm as well.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thanks.
I have a question.
Oh, we do have a question. Commissioner Mill?
Sir.
Zoning to light industrial, what's going on, or what do you plan on, what's light industrial be?
Okay, well, at this point, we are trying to become a dual-purpose farm. We currently farm 4,220 Shasta almond trees, but we've had a extremely hard time in trying to propagate the soil as well as take care of some of the high wind, and it's devastated a good portion of our trees. Okay, so we're at a point now where we're actually trying to become a dual-purpose crop. We're looking to try to sustain our way of farming by being able to farm cannabis as well as our trees. And the only way to do that is to reclassify.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else wishing to speak on item 11A? Okay. Close the public hearing. Do commissioners have any questions or comments at this time? Item 11A. Okay, chair is calling for a motion for item 11A.
Make a motion to approve for staff recommendation.
Got a motion by Commissioner Abbott, looking for a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meal. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 11B.
Item number 11B is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel number 19006 from an AR 36A agricultural residential 36-acre minimum lot size zone to a CMO 36A commercial manufacturing open lot storage 36-acre minimum lot size zone to allow for a cannabis grow facility in the Griffith vicinity. Staff has received 3 letters of support. We do recommend approval with standard conditions with the added note that the applicant will comply with all state and county regulations regarding cannabis.
Okay, thank you. The applicant is available. Any comments?
Again, my name's Don Lennox. I reside at 2403 Jasmine Drive in Bullhead City. And again, we're speaking of the same 36-acre parcel. And what we're trying to do, again, is to not only sustain our way of farming, but create a dual-purpose farm. You know, we're having a hard time being able to farm our almonds in Golden Valley, and I think the latest thing that's hit us in the past 2 years is this devastating wind right during our flowering season. You know, we lose a flower, we lose an almond. So at this point, we're trying to do what we can to not only sustain ourselves, but I think we're also kind of proud that we might be able to be one of the first farmers in our area. We got a lot of people coming in from out of our state to take advantage of these new cannabis rules. You know, and I think if we can show some of our other farmers, we have only a handful in Golden Valley, you know, and then our surrounding areas, a way to sustain themselves to get through some of this hardship, you know, without going out for the grants and all the typical ways of trying to sustain our farms. To be able to sustain ourselves with doing something that I consider a relatively good cause. And the only reason I say that is I'm a 6-year resident of Arizona, okay? And I was brought here because my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal lung cancer. And during that time where I lived out his bucket list for his last 2 years of his life, I was able to see some of the medicinal benefits of that cannabis plant. So I think that not only from a personal standpoint, from a business standpoint, but from a farming standpoint, I can see benefit. I don't know how I feel thus far about the recreational use of this stuff, but I know that medicinally it helped my dad, you know, sustain a much better way of life for the last 2 years he was with us. So I just want to add that point. And then to shift gears, I think that farming thus far has been something that most people that work on a farm, it's a job, it's a day job. You know, unless you're an owner of the farm and you're relatively successful, most of the people that live out there, they're just there for a paycheck and trying to go home. I really see this cannabis thing as something that we might be able to have 15 to 25 people now that have more of a career path rather than just a job to go to every day, because we do believe in sustaining and promoting from within at our farm. You know, and this new way of farming could be something that not only sustains our people, but to give farmers across the United States a good chance to sustain themselves during hardship. You know, we're losing a lot of our crops, and they're going outside the United States right now into other countries. You know, and if we had a way to try to help sustain some of our farmers across the states where this stuff's, you know, it's legal, I don't see why some of them shouldn't take advantage of it. I mean, there's a cost, a huge outlay in trying to prepare our site to be ready, not only per state guidelines, but per the requirements. I mean, there's a huge fence that's got to go up. There's a lot of things. That's why we involved our neighbors to let them know what our intentions are, first and foremost, to get them involved. But to address a lot of the concerns, if they had any at that point, and bring them part of our farming experience, let them try to have a say-so as to what we're going to do. And so far, we've received nothing but overwhelming support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for the applicant?
I have a question.
Question? Commissioner Reel has a question.
Sir.
It says storage lot. What type of fencing?
Well, at this point, state of Arizona asks for a 10-foot private screen fence, okay, and then a minimum 1-inch steel gate to prevent access and security. Thus far, we've got a good portion of our farm that's fenced with nothing but barbed wire. We do also have a front section. We put up some privacy screen to let some of the neighbors understand what it's going to look like, you know.
You did say that it has the slats in it for that privacy, the fencing?
Yes, sir. Either the slats or some other means. At this point, we haven't gone through the site planning stages. If this is a feasible plan, then we're going to see about spending the money to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have anyone else wishing to speak on item 11B? Thank you, sir. Okay, hearing none, close the public hearing. Does any commissioner have a question or comment at this point? Chair is calling for a motion on item 11B.
Make a motion to approve 11B.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hassett, looking for a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meal. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 12.
Item number 12 is an evaluation of a request for a special use permit for Assessors Parcel number 102-16078 to allow for a 195-foot wireless communication tower and equipment facility in an AR 36A agricultural residential 36-acre minimum lot size zone in the Burrow Creek vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? The applicant is not here. Anyone wishing to speak on item 12? Any commissioners have?
Reception in that area.
Sir?
I said we need reception in that area.
We do, that's true. Yeah. Okay, looking for a motion on item 12.
Motion to approve item 12.
Second motion.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 13.
Item number 13 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of a portion of Assessors Parcel number 336-08045 from an AR 36A agricultural residential 36-acre minimum lot size zone to an AR 6A agricultural residential 6-acre minimum lot size zone to allow for a minor land division in the Meadview vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Okay. Is the applicant present? No applicant. Do we have anyone wishing to speak on item 13? No. Do we have any commissioners that have questions or comments for item 13? Calling for a motion for item 13.
Motion to approve per staff recommendations.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, looking for a second.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Alexander. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 14.
Item number 14 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of a portion of Assessors Parcel number 221-35001 from an RE 10A residential recreation 10-acre minimum lot size zone to an RE residential recreation zone to allow for a minor land division in the Fort Mojave vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Is the applicant with us this morning? No. Anyone wishing to speak on item 14? Hearing none. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on item 14?
I have a question for staff.
Okay.
Where is this in conjunction with the solar farm?
Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, Commissioner Meal, with regards to the solar farm, I do not have the map in front of me right now, but I believe it is to the west of the recently approved solar farms.
What about the proposed airport that's going in out that way?
I would not know the answer to that at this time.
Okay, go one more time. Is it on the asphalt road or is it on the dirt road?
It is connected to the asphalt road within a residential subdivision.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Commissioner, Chairman Jacks, just for clarifying, that portion of Vanderslice is dirt road, but the
I
paved portion comes through the subdivision to this parcel. And in the packet, I don't believe we have it in our slideshow, but in the packet, it does show the proximity to the solar farms, both to the north and to the south. Yeah, we don't have it on the slideshow, but in the packet, it does show, basically, it's located, you have the solar farm to the south on Antoinette. It's north of that, but it's south of the solar farm that's located up off of Joy Lane.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, looking for a motion on item 14.
Motion to approve item 14.
Motion by Commissioner Hassett, looking for a second. Second. Second by Commissioner Meal. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 15.
Item number 15 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel numbers 310-12076 and 310-12077 from an AD Airport Development Zone to a CRE Commercial Recreation Zone to allow for agricultural community exploration and education in the Kingman vicinity. This item was originally heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission and their May 12th, 2021 meeting. It was continued to this meeting to give time for the applicant to work with staff to find possible solutions for the project. Staff met with the applicant on May 25th to discuss some of the possible solutions. We did discuss some of the ways that he would be able to develop the site as it was zoned currently to allow for some of the uses that he was looking for. Ultimately, his desire to have a single-family residence, I think, was the biggest hangup. Any zoning district that would allow for that single-family residence to be used out there amongst all of that manufacturing and airport development zone, we would likely consider to be considered spot zoning. The applicant also identified during that meeting that he was looking at other properties to purchase for what he was looking to do with the horses and things like that. So staff still recommends denial because of spot zoning and that the surrounding area does not contain other uses, mostly that single-family residential use, similar to what he is proposing.
Is the applicant present today? No? Anyone wishing to speak on item 15? No? Do commissioners have any questions or comments on item 15? Okay, chair's looking for a motion on item 15.
I'll make a motion to reject it per staff recommendation.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Abbott, second by Commissioner Meal. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 16.
Item number 16 is an evaluation of a request for a special use permit for Assessors Parcel number 324-11051 to allow for a billboard in a C2H highway commercial zone in the Kingman vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
The applicant is available. Any questions or comments? No? Okay. Do you have anyone else wishing to speak on item 16? Do we have any commissioners that have any questions or comments at this time on item 16? Okay, looking for a motion, item 16.
Motion to approve per staff recommendation.
Got a motion by Commissioner Martin. Looking for a second?
I'll second the motion.
And a second by Commissioner Alexander. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 17.
Item number 17 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel number 3316002C from an AR-10A agricultural residential 10-acre minimum lot size zone to an AR 5A, agricultural residential 5-acre minimum lot size zone to allow for a minor land division in the Long Mountain vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Applicant is available. Any comments? No? Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak on item 17? Any commissioner have questions or comments at this time? Item 17.
I have a question for staff. Just
Question.
for general conversation real quick. What happens to the zoning on the other parcel? Does it stay the same or what?
Commissioner Neal, could you clarify your comments on other parcel?
Yeah, that it originally started out as a 10-acre parcel, and now it's going to be cut in half. Okay, what happens to the other 5 acres? What's their zoning going to end up being?
The request is for the whole parcel is going to be rezoned to an AR 5A. So when the minor land division occurs, there would be 2 5-acre parcels, and they both have the zoning for 5A.
Yes, Kathy?
Honorable Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Kathy Tackett Hicks. I'm acting as the owner's agent. So I just wanted to clarify Commissioner Meal's question. So this parcel is over 17 acres. I requested an AR5. It will be split into 3 parcels. So each one of them has to be a minimum 5 acres. So after the dedication, I might have one that's actually 6 acres and 2 5, but the minimum size will be 5.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Do we have anyone else wishing to speak on item 17? Any commissioner have questions or comments on item 17? Okay, looking for a motion, item 17.
I'll make a motion to approve item 17 for staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Abbott and a second by Commissioner Hassett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 18.
Item number 18 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of Assessors Parcel number 344-22-028 from an AR 15A agricultural residential 15-acre minimum lot size zone to an AR 5A agricultural residential 5-acre minimum lot size zone to allow for a minor land division in the Vaughn Canyon vicinity. Staff recommends approval with standard conditions.
Is the applicant present? Yes. You wish to speak on the item?
No, unless questions are needed.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on item 18? Any commissioner have a question or comment? Item 18. Okay. Looking for a motion for item 18.
Motion to approve per staff recommendations.
Second the motion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Abbott. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Moves us on to item 19.
Item number 19 is an evaluation of an amendment to the Mojave County Zoning Ordinance, Section 37.z, Special Events, to add an expedited review process and to remove the associated fees from this section to put them in the Mojave County Fee Ordinance with the related item. So I'll just briefly go over what we're looking to do here. So staff was directed by the county manager to look at a way to provide for an expedited review process for special events. A special event is if someone was holding an event that has more than 100 people, it would fall under the purview of our special event section of our zoning ordinance. Anywhere from 100 to 249 people is an administrative review. Once it reaches 250 people, then it would need approval from the Board of Supervisors. So we looked at similar processes in other counties. So ultimately what we did is we added onto, so section 2C, under special events, we added on to that paragraph there to identify new timelines that would fall under that expedited review. Basically, for that more than 250 people that requires board approval, then they can submit, let's see, they would need to submit all of the documentation necessary, including approvals from the various stakeholders, at least 15 days prior to the last scheduled Board of Supervisors meeting prior to that start of the event. So they still have a deadline that they would need to meet it by so that we can get it on the board's agenda. For those that we can administratively approve, theoretically, they could turn it in the day of the event if they had all of the approvals from the necessary stakeholders. We also, in section F, we added Mojave County's Environmental Health Department to the list of stakeholders that they need approval from. A lot of the special events either use porta potties or food trucks or some other food vendors, and so those will need to be licensed through the environmental health. And so we've added them, and then we removed a section that required those looking to have a special event to have proof of insurance listing Mojave County. In working with risk management on some of our special events that we've gotten approved, they no longer require that unless the special event is on county property, in which case it goes through a different process. And then the last change here is we removed the fees that were originally listed in the zoning ordinance to place them in our fee schedule, which we'll put in there with the next item. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. We have anyone wishing to speak on item 19? Any comments or questions by commissioners on this item 19? Okay, looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve item 19.
A motion by Commissioner Hassett
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Alexander. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to item 20.
Item number 20 is discussion and possible action on an amendment to the Mojave County Ordinance number 2018-03 to add the special event permit fees. So when staff conducted a review of other jurisdictions within the state of Arizona, it was most of the time, if a jurisdiction allowed some sort of expedited review, the review fees were typically either double or triple the normal review fee. And so we took that and went with that. Our review fees for special events are fairly low, and so with the added time constraints of an expedited event possibly coming in the day of the event or right before a board meeting, we looked at tripling those fees. So if you'll see, normally if it's that 100 to 250 people range, the application fee is $50, and for the ones that have to go to the board, that jumps up to $250. So then for those expedited reviews, they would be $150 for 100 to 250 people and $750 if there's going to be more than 250 people. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Anyone wishing to comment on item 20? Okay, any commissioner have any questions or comments at this time on item 20? Okay, looking for a motion, item 20.
Motion to approve.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Martin and a second by Commissioner Meal. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Takes us on to item 21. I believe we all got an email this week with the monthly reports. Do we have any comments or questions on monthly reports? Well, hearing none, we'll move on to item 22, Commissioner comments, limited announcements, availability, attendance at conference and seminars, requests for agenda items for future meetings, and requests for reports from staff. Do we have any commissioner comments? I'd like to express my appreciation today. We had a long meeting, but I thought the comments by the commissioners and our staffs and the public were really well done and covered a lot of excellent points and comments, so thank you very much.
And thank you for the right-of-way maps that are showing up in color.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, that takes us to item 23, call to the public. Anyone wishing to speak? Call to the public. Yes. Oh, yes, you may. Come up and give us your name and address, please.
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Kathleen Murphy. I live at 3220 Bighorn Drive in Yucca, Arizona, at Stagecoach Trails. And I have a comment to make about the prison and the access to substances, controlled substances around the prison and around my particular parcel. It seems like gradually more and more parcels are being taken over in that area for marijuana. And I am a woman of faith. I'm a Catholic. And I believe that substance abuse is a large problem among correctional officers, prison managers, a lot of people. And if you have a problem with the DUI prison and substance abuse right next door to it, you're promoting it with, it sounds more to me like the correctional facility is playing the inmates, and they're vulnerable, and they can have easier access to a controlled substance. I disagree with the public opinion on the marijuana issue, but that's my opinion. Everyone is welcome to their own opinion, but I just disagree with it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Public hearing? Call the audience. Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn.
Mike's up. Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second?
Second.
And we have a second. We are adjourned.
Has left the conference.